Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Probably this Monday, your kids are headed back to school, and we are on, oh gosh, what are we? The 8th day of January 2018, and I'm declaring this Teen Wisdom Week, and I'm declaring 2018 the year of connecting with your teen. And here is why. If you have a strong connection with your teen, then you can have a massive influence in their life. And that is what we all want, especially in these last few years before our teens are out of our house forever. We want to have a massive influence in their lives. Now, here's the thing. All week, 6 o'clock in the morning, you can join me for coffee. I've got my nice warm cup of coffee here. And when you're here with me, can you just send me a heart or a thumbs up? And that way I know that you're here. And if you have a question, go ahead and enter it in the comments below. And if I can, I'll answer it while I'm doing the video. Otherwise, I will go into the comments afterwards and answer whatever questions pop up for you. So let me know what those are as we go. So as a parenting coach and a teen expert, this is what I offer, and really it's a new perspective. So I hope you were able to join me on the weekend for the Inner Compass Alignment. And if you haven't yet, you can scroll down my page and click on the link and you can get the recording. And this is a really powerful process to align your inner compass, to really tap into where you are right now in parenting, where your child is right now, because as they grow every year older, we have to kind of recalculate how we interact with them, because the goal is to work ourselves out of a job as parents. And what I mean by that is just that our child would become more and more independent, and so we would have to do less and less for them. And in these adolescent years, the less and less that we have to do for our teens is the problem solving. So as a coach, what I can do is help shift your perspective of how you see your relationship with your teen and give you some strategies of how you're going to do that. Now, I was talking to a parent a couple of weeks ago and he said, I watch your videos, Deanne, and sometimes I think, yeah, that totally works. And other times I think that wouldn't work with my kid. And that is perfect, because I never call myself a parenting expert, because I want you to be the parenting expert in your home. You know your teen, you know yourself, you know your life circumstances. So when it comes to parenting in your house, you need to be the expert. I have worked with thousands of teens over 14 years, and so I do call myself a teen expert because I have an education in the background of teen development. I have experience of working with thousands of teens day in and day out in the classroom. So I do have some expertise in that area of understanding that age group, understanding what they are going through developmentally, and I have done a lot of study in that area. So I can support you through understanding teens, but we are a partnership because you know your teen better than I do, because I haven't met them. So I hope that frames for you how this relationship can kind of work for you and I, so that I can support you through this journey. So I promised you that I would share this week 5 ways that you can connect more powerfully with your teen. And I want you to know that you may hear some of these ways and think, I knew that already, give me something new. But here's the thing. If we can take really simple concepts and really lean into, am I doing this? Are there places where I can do this more? Or is there a little tweak that I can do in the way I'm doing this that's really going to make it work? So that's the question. I have to tell you, the other day I was watching a hockey game. It was my nephew's hockey game, and my brother was the coach, and I just was sitting back thinking about coaches. Now, he is a hockey coach, so it's sport, and I am a coach for parents, so it's different. But I thought, this is a game. This is a hockey game, and you wouldn't send your kids out into a sport without a coach, because the coach inspires them, directs them, helps them have a plan, helps them recalculate when that plan isn't working, and is there every step of the way to tell them when to push more and when to pull back. And I thought, that's exactly what my role is with parents and when I'm coaching teens as well. That's the role. And if we know that in sport, we need someone to have that role to help them, these kids do well in their sport, why wouldn't we have a person in that role in our own life? Someone who can inspire us, someone who knows the territory a little bit better than we do, someone who can tell us when to push a little bit harder and when to pull back a little bit, because parenting is practice. It is a practice because we get up every morning and we parent our kids all day when we feel like it, when we don't feel like it. It is constant practice. And so sometimes we need a coach, someone to tell us, you're doing great, keep going, or pull back or redirect. So I hope that can help you really frame this differently. Now, here's the other reframe for this morning. I did some work with Amy White, and she calls herself a caregiver advocate. And I had never heard of that role before. And she wrote a beautiful book called Closer to Paradise, where she talks about her teenage son's mental health crisis. And she writes really candidly about her experience as a mom of having to drive him to care and fight her insurance company to cover the care. And that really got me thinking of the parenting role as a caregiver and how difficult that is with adolescents because they so desperately want to be independent. And in many ways, they are independent. They can get on the bus, they can get in the car, drive themselves places, make decisions, have money to spend on buying whatever kind of junk food they want. And so there are lots of ways that teens are so independent. And we are still their caregivers because they are not yet adults. So I want you to just step back for a minute and just think about your teen and think about what their experiences are like. So teenagers are often known to be awkward, socially awkward. And there are lots of reasons. In their brains, they are still developing those neural networks that help them understand people's emotions and be able to read social situations. And so it can be really awkward sometimes with teens because they just don't always, sometimes they push too hard, sometimes they're so reserved that it's painful, but they are still learning how to interact socially. Another place where it can be really difficult is when our teens come home and kind of blast us with their rage and we think, where has that come from? And that can be really difficult for parents, and they have attitude, and all of that can be really a lot of barriers to even wanting to connect with our teens because they keep blasting us with this attitude. If you can step back for just this moment when you're watching this video right now and think about your teen as someone who is struggling in their life. Even think about them as going through a crisis. Now, they may be going through their own crisis, and they may not be. But if you can just imagine for a moment that they are suffering with figuring out their life, they're not feeling certain about who they are. They feel painful moments every day in their heart. They feel confused about what they're experiencing in their mind and in their bodies. And they don't always like the situations that they're in, that they have to be in, like going to English class, having to get on the bus, having to do this job that they don't like to do. And if you can just imagine for a moment what that feels like. So go ahead. I often put my hand in my heart when I'm trying to feel what I imagine someone else is feeling. So if you can just feel into your teen's confusion and suffering for a moment, what that opens up is the possibility for us to listen to them differently. So this is today's way of connecting with your teen. It's seeing yourself as the caregiver for this person who is suffering and listening to them. So I told you these practices would be really simple, things you probably already knew, but this practice is actually quite difficult. So if you listen to what your teen is saying to you, or if they're not really talking to you with words, really watching their behavior, you will pick up some clues if you see them as an iceberg. So on the tip of the iceberg, that's what they're saying to you, or that's what the behavior that you're seeing. And they have all of these other things going on under the surface that they're not talking about, that maybe they can't talk about because they can't formulate it into words to express it. It's just a bundle of feeling. Some of it is wonderful and joyful, and some of it is really a lot of suffering, and some of those things are really mixed together. But what you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg. And it can be so frustrating to parents because you just want to sort out this whole iceberg and figure it out. But that's not the role of the caregiver of someone who is suffering, is not to take away their pain or take away their suffering. It just is to observe and offer loving kindness to that tip of the iceberg of what you see. Now, does that mean you need to accept and be on the receiving end of their angry blasts? No. Any caregiver will tell you that you need to set boundaries to keep yourself safe, physically safe and emotionally safe. I'm thinking now of all of the colleagues that I've worked with who have worked with adolescents who have developmental delays, who often lash out physically because they have a mind of a much younger child. And we know younger children will lash out physically because they don't have the words yet to use to describe what they're feeling. And so those caregivers have to protect themselves physically from these big adult bodies that have younger minds that want to lash out physically. So first step is always protecting yourself so that you are not harmed. And the other piece is protecting yourself emotionally. So if you imagine yourself as a caregiver of someone who is really stepping into that role of supporting someone who's going through a difficult time, that may also open up space for you to give yourself some space and some care. And we'll talk about more about that a little bit later this week. But really stepping up to what kind of care and rest and positive thinking, nutrition would you need if you had this intense job of being a caregiver for someone who is suffering? Because we know that parenting teens is a never-ending job, and often the moments when we have the most parenting to do, or a conversation is there, or we have to help our kid clean up their mess, those moments are not always the convenient moments. They most often are not. Or those moments where we need to drive our teen somewhere or pick them up, it can wear us down. So the question is, do you have a reserve to work from in those moments so that you're not constantly worn down? So imagine yourself as this caregiver to someone who is suffering. What kind of care would you give yourself under those circumstances? And so my challenge to you today is to find a way to be kind and gentle to yourself. And imagine yourself as that caregiver of someone going through a really intense time. And that is one powerful way that is going to open you up to listening to your teen in a new way. So I described your teen as an iceberg. So listening means also observing their behavior. So again, going back to that tip of the iceberg. If your teen is telling you something like, you love my sister more than you love me, that really hurts our heart because we know that isn't true and we want to fight against it and create this whole case about how that's not true. But here's the shift. Imagine for a moment that that is true. What would you do if that was true? If what your teen had just said was truth, how would you respond? So if you really took a moment and said, okay, I love the other child more than this one. If that was true, what would I do? And then you can create a whole list of things that you would do in that situation. Choose one of those things and do it. Not because you're agreeing with your child about the truth of that, but you are acknowledging that for that child, it is true. They have decided and they have created a whole story in their mind, and they've picked out behavior that they've seen from you that tells them that that is true. And it is really hard to push against that belief. So the way you can address that is you don't even need to say out loud that that's true, because that wouldn't be the truth from you. But you can think about, if that was true, what would you do? And that way give some support, because really what's happening is your teen is suffering in that area, and they've created a strong case around that example of you love the other sibling more, the other child more, and so you need to come and support them and help them feel the love that they feel that they're not getting. So I hope that example is helpful in some way. Other things that teens say, you never listen to me, you don't trust me. And so just for a moment, take that on as a mental exercise. If that was true, what would I do about it? Because what will happen is your teen will feel heard. I said that to mom and she heard me. I'm finally getting what I need here. And this is why it is painful to parent teens, because they say these hurtful things to us that we know aren't true, and we want to defend ourselves against that and protect ourselves against that. And that actually puts up a wall, and we tell our teen, no, you can't have that. You're not asking for the right thing. And that is so frustrating to them, because they don't know even always what they're asking for. They just know that things don't feel right, and so they say something that they think is going to solve it. So part of the process is take it up as if it is really true, and respond in the way that you can that will help meet the need that they're feeling, that suffering that they have. And also have an ongoing conversation with them about helping them figure out what they actually might be feeling and how to ask for that in a more positive way. So you may want to say that also. Do you feel, what is it that tells you that we love this sibling more? What information? And you can tap into that story they have in their head. And if it's, will you spend more time with them? Then you know they want more time with you. And that's their awkward way of asking for that. So that's what I mean by listening to your teen. Look under the iceberg and think of the suffering that they're going through and the difficulty that they have to ask for what they need in that, and take it on as being true so that you can respond in a certain way. The biggest compliment a teen can give to their parent is they might not ever say to their parent, they'd probably say it to their friend, and it would sound like this: my mom really gets me, or my dad really gets me. And what that means is they feel heard. That is their deepest wish. So I hope you have heard today that the biggest gift you can give your child, one way you can connect with them and have a massive influence on your teen, is by listening to them and responding to them and taking up what they have said as the truth, because it is for them. And instead of fighting against the truth of it, from your perspective, it's not true. It's just responding to them by trying to provide for them what they are awkwardly asking for. And I know some of you are thinking, I don't think my teen is awkward. You know, she's very sophisticated. And I just want to remind you that every teen, every person is an iceberg. And some teens, I would say in my experience, especially the girls, can appear very sophisticated. You know, they've got it all together. They look great. They, you know, have all of these friends, but they still have these areas of awkwardness and confusion and struggle inside of them. And we still need to remember that they are adolescents and they have an adolescent brain, which means they are still forming together those synapses to understand social situations, to anticipate long-term consequences of their actions. And so we still need to remember that we are their caregivers. And the best gift we can give them, the way we can connect with them, is listen to what they say and act on it as if it is true. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Give me some hearts, some comments, some thumbs up. If there are things that need more clarity, please post in the comments and I will respond to those today. And I will see you tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Mountain Time, and I will give you my next big tip of how you can connect with your teen in 2018. Much love to you today. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye, everyone.